can warn people in America. We're facing the same threat, so we know what we're dealing with here.
That's right. This is a global threat, and you're right to remind people it's not just in the United States, it's not just Obama. We've got Kevin Rudd in Australia, who spent, after he'd heard my Minnesota speech, in which I first drew attention to the world government provisions in the Copenhagen Treaty, he devoted an entire speech of 3/4 of an hour to personally vilifying me. And he was really angry that this plot to set up a world government had been exposed. So he needs to be dealt with, and I'm going to Australia in 2 weeks' time to do a tour of Australia to let people hear the side of the story that the mainstream media simply won't tell them. And let me tell you what's happening down there in Australia at the moment. The government, and it was the previous administration, so again, I'm not making political points here, the previous Conservative administration did a deal with the UN by which to comply with the Kyoto Protocol and cut their carbon emissions. They said that if we designate the farmland of half of Australia as being a carbon sink that can't be farmed, then will that allow us to comply with our obligation under the Kyoto Protocol? And the UN, for some amazing reason, said yes to this. And it means that people who own thousands of acres of farmland are now suddenly not allowed to farm it, and they've been given no compensation at all. So it's not only in America that terrible things are happening and people are losing their livelihood and, of course, the financial asset in their farmland, because it's worthless now because nobody can do anything with it. It's got to be left fallow. And one poor farmer who has been heartbroken by this sudden, unexpected loss of his livelihood and of the capital value of his farm without a penny in compensation from the Australian government in the name of complying with this ludicrous Kyoto Protocol, has climbed up a television mast on his estate. He's living halfway up it now with water only. He's been on a hunger strike now for 6 long weeks, 42 days. And I fear he's not long for this world, but he is so angry at what has happened to him, and yet not one of the mainstream news media has even reported that this is what's being done to farmers all across Australia.
And so you're going to break the blockade.
Here, the silence of the mainstream media is culpable and serious, and something is going to have to be done about it.
Well, that's obviously because they're very, very scared of the truth. And I have seen reports in Australian news the last 2 years in a positive way saying, isn't it great, this farmer will not be paid and no more sheep or no more corn. And they just calmly announce, and here in the U.S. they're talking about laying land off use, and the Supreme Court rule with the New London versus Kelo that they can take your property without just compensation. I mean, this is the real heart of tyranny, not just taking property and the power to tax, the power to destroy, and taxation without representation, but now we'll just take your factories. We'll give $25 billion to the automakers as a bailout so they can move to Russia, move to Eastern Europe, move to Brazil, move to China. They're paying to move jobs. They're paying to shut down farms and factories because once we're bankrupt, we'll be fully dependent on the globalists. That is their plan. And you know, as well as I, Lord Monckton, that the UN has stated this in their biological diversity assessments. Maurice Strong has said this. This is just a group wanting to visit neo-feudalism and serfdom upon the planet so that they can play God, and it's just so outrageous to witness this unfolding.
And now, listeners, when you have heard what Alex has just said, you might have thought, this is so extreme, it's just silly. The trouble is that this is actually happening. The stories we are telling you are real. Factories being closed down, big ones in Britain being closed down in the United States, factories that would have opened, not open. In Australia, farmland being taken out of use, and now by a new and pernicious extension of the doctrine of eminent domain. Not only can the state take away your land in the United States, it can take it away without a penny of compensation, as it is already doing in Australia. And all of this in the name of a problem that doesn't exist. There is no climate problem. The climate has always changed, it always will. Humankind has a minuscule effect at the very worst. We are a bit-part player in all this. There is no danger. We could burn as much fossil fuel as we like, create as much CO2 as we like. It wouldn't make any difference to the climate. But these people have managed, by lying and lying and lying again, to pretend that there is a problem where there isn't one. And who is going to get hurt the most? It's not the rich. It's not the big boys. It is the working class, the people who voted in their millions, President Obama, who voted in their millions for Kevin Rudd in Australia, who voted for Gordon Brown. It is the working
And we know.
people.
And we know at its heart, it's all about a population control to limit our numbers, and that's why the UN says they want to shut off the food to the third world. You've pointed out this is a death sentence to the third world, and they're able to implement that. And in closing, obviously it's circumstantial. They always use unusually hot weather, which is really normal in certain biosphere areas, as to say, oh, look, it's hot, or oh, look, there's a dust storm. Certainly, if they would have chosen global cooling as their fear-mongering, they would be using the news now that we see massive deaths in India from record cold in D.C., record snowfall, record cold in areas of Europe, record cold in the last 100 years around the globe, because as the satellite and ground data shows, cooling for 9 years, leveling out in the last 14, correct?
That's exactly right. The last 15 years has been no statistically significant warming, and this winter is likely to be one of the coldest 6 winters of the whole of the last 100 years. Now, of course, one bad winter doesn't make a trend, but we have now had 3 bad winters on the trot in the Northern Hemisphere. We've had 3 bad summers on the trot, certainly in the United Kingdom. I don't know what it is like in the States. And so certainly we're not getting the pattern of relentless, rapid warming, which is what the models predicted. Now, of course, again, they will say that a short trend isn't necessarily the same thing as a long trend. You can get downtrends even in an uptrend. Yes, you can, but it's now becoming apparent that over the last 30 years we simply haven't seen anything like the warming that the models have predicted. They have got it wrong exactly as we all said they had, and there's now no denying it, and yet they are cruelly killing off the jobs of working people throughout the Western world, and all of this for a chimera. All of this to make themselves rich at your expense.
And, of course, they also sell it as if they want to help the third world, but their own admissions, this would kill tens of millions a year who are on the verge, on the edge of starvation. This is a death sentence.
It would. It already is killing tens of millions. The awful thing is that the doubling of world food prices that was caused by the biofuel scam, taking a third of the U.S. agricultural land out of producing food for people who need it and into producing fuel for clunkers that don't. The effect of that is to double world food prices, pricing food out so that poor people around the world can't afford it. There have been major food riots in a dozen different regions. People are being killed worldwide by the belief in global warming that is so fake and so bogus. And so these profiteers are profiting out of the deaths of millions in poorer countries, and not a word of this is appearing in any of our mainstream news.
Isn't that, Lord Monckton, genocide under the Nuremberg Code?
Yes, I think you make a very good point there. And I think that if somebody were to bring Al Gore up in front of the International Criminal Court for having caused the death of millions by the lies that he has been spreading, a conviction would be found. He would be found to have committed crimes against humanity, and the penalty for those, as various people have discovered recently, is death.
Lord Monckton, let me say bye to you during the break and also give out your website on the other side. Lord Christopher Monckton, our guest from the United Kingdom. Stay with us.
Thank you for listening to GCN. Be sure to visit GCNlive.com today.
The illusion created by the power elite is a lie that covers even the food they want you to eat. Will you continue to be their profit center, buying their processed food that makes you sick? Go to the doctor and buy their drugs? You don't have to cooperate. There is a solution. Inner Health Botanicals, a company that my wife and I just love, have been providing products for the last 5 years that give you the perfect solution to this madness. Try their Inner Food with 20 organic ingredients, full of dense nutrition that gives you the energy you need and will keep you well. It even won the award for Best Superfood of 2009 from our friend Mike Adams, the Health Ranger. I love their NutriCafe, great organic coffee, infused with herbal extracts to boost your immune system. Try all of their truly honest products that will keep you alive and healthy. Go to ENERFOOD.com or give them a call right now, 866-762-9238. Click on their banner at Infowars.com to